once was a man named McGuirk, who was fat and dumb and a jerk.
Yeah, it's really classic, guys. I think we're going home. It's not even a haiku. Hey, everybody in the TBD family. This week, my buddy here, my really good buddy here, you know, we're definitely buddies here. Etienne and I are covering Brennan Small and Lauren Bouchard's glorious first work on Adult Swim, the inimitable Home Movies. Yeah. Starring H. John Benjamin, Brendan Small, occasionally Lauren Bouchard.
He did the voice of, like, the baby, okay?
Yeah, I know. He did a couple of other background characters as well, but yeah,
his main claim to fame was being Josie.
Okay. And, you know, helping create the show as well.
Well, yes,
you know,
yes, that it...
And Lauren Bouchard is responsible for one of, like, my top 5 Adult Swim... 2 of my top 5 Adult Swim shows. Home Movies and Lucy the Daughter of the Devil, which I think is criminally underrated, and it hurts me that there's only one season. Because I thought it was amazing, as much as I wanted Korgoth of Barbaria to win that vote off. Which
they frequently have, like, multiple good, like, pilots that are up for them, and, like, they don't always choose the best one.
Yeah.
But, like, usually you get something good out of it. I mean, even, like, Mr. Pickles most recently. I do think the pilot was the best episode.
Oh, for sure.
But there were definitely enjoyable moments.
I've had a couple of people tell me to get into Mr. Pickles, and I haven't actually done it. I watched, like, 2/3 of the first episode, and I was like, not in the place for this level of violence and nihilism today. And I haven't gone back, you know, even though I have been in the place for that much violence and nihilism. On later dates, but I just haven't actually, like, gotten around to cycling back to it. Kind of, you know, because it sometimes takes time. I mean, I hadn't cycled back to Home Movies for, like, 6 or 7 years before, you know, doing the binge for this podcast. And it was wonderful, you know, finding that ember of love still burning in my heart that roared back to a raging inferno of love for McGuirk. There's only McGuirk in my heart. McGuirk and Dwayne. McGuirk and Dwayne.
Dwayne
2016.
is fucking excellent. Like, honestly, like, the first season for me is kind of so-so. There's definitely moments in it, but, like, that director's cut. The rock
Franz Kafka. Oh my god. He is Franz Kafka. Like,
Franz Kafka.
Yeah.
He'll spite you if you do this.
Yes. A warrior of words taking a stand. No, that episode is hands down my favorite in the first season. It's actually funny, though, that you say that, because the first season was my favorite.
Really?
It was totally my favorite when I originally watched it. It's still my favorite. Because it's totally fucking different than anything else that I ever saw anybody do with a cartoon. And that's part of why I love it, because it was the pure improvisational style. And the later seasons were wonderful and were really great in different ways. But there's something about that, like, raw, unprocessed, like...
cheese.
Yes. Like, he poured it in the container and buried it in the backyard. Yeah, no.
Don't get tattoos while you're drunk.
Don't live like me, Brendan. Don't live like me.
This is the Tigris, and this is the Euphrates. And over here is the Fertile Crescent.
Yeah, trace that out for the ladies.
Men shouldn't have legs like this. My God, I'm hideous.
Which is from the beginning.
Trace them that color.
Highlighters, the wrong choice there. Which, hands down, I think my favorite H. John Benjamin part. In part because it is like the pure distilled H. John Benjamin. Mm-hmm. Like, especially going off of what I've mentioned before, the story with creators of Venture Brothers, and then being like, he just adds more and more ad-lib to the lines until he's completely off script and shit-faced in the studio, and there's this golden zone in the middle. Like, there doesn't have to be a golden zone, especially in the first season. They just turned on a mic and got H. John Benjamin drunk. And the genius of it, the sheer genius of it, inconceivable.
I don't know. Like, I definitely think that in later seasons it benefited more from a little bit of stronger scripting. You can tell that there's still, like, improv along with the scripting. There's that like, fine, like, line of gold where it's just, like, enough in between what was written on the page and what you had in your head.
And I think that really comes out in seasons 3 and 4. 2 is a little bit rougher for me. I thought that there were some amazing episodes in 2, but that it still hasn't found the balance between the improv and the writing yet.
For sure. Season 2 and 3 are my favorite. 3 is probably my most favorite.
I would definitely agree with that for myself, with 1 being slightly above it because of that special flavor. I think that the seasons 2, 3, and 4 were far better crafted.
Yeah.
Even though 4 definitely felt tired.
It did, and, like, you even get that, I mean, we'll talk about it later, but, like, the meta of the ending, too.
Yeah, which I loved. For listeners who are unfamiliar with the show, the Adult Swim late night time block, the same thing that Aqua Teen Hunger Force, which we covered in an earlier episode, was on, is a late night cartoon thing on Cartoon Network that's geared towards adults. And Home Movies was one of their first flagship shows, like Aqua Teen Hunger Force, Home Movies, C-Lab 2021. I'm spacing. There were maybe like 2 others.
Yeah, this was like their first thing that, like, when they were first picking up, they're like, okay, well, there's the show that flopped on UPN for the first 5 episodes, but it looked like it might be decent. Let's try it for this age range, this dynamic, which I think it works perfectly for.
Yeah, I thought it was far better.
It's got that amount of, like, catering to kids, but, like, you've got that, like, language, and, like, there's enough, like, realism with what's going on and happening in everybody's life that you need that slightly older dynamic.
And the literacy of the show and just breadth of actual knowledge that goes into it, I think is so rich and is so good, especially as you get older and older and rewatch the show. Yeah. You're like, oh my god, that was what that was referencing. That's fantastic.
But it's interesting. I mean, you talk about the amount of information, but it's interesting because there's a lot of information that's also coupled with a lot of potential disinformation. Like, this is blatantly wrong.
But they know that it's
William
wrong.
Shakespeare did not write Cats.
No, which, oh my god, that one, when they actually did the full thing. But again, digressing. The show is about a kid named Brendan Small, eponymously after one of the creators of the show. I assume it's at least partially autobiographical.
Basically, all of the basic characters have the same name as their, like, who plays them.
Really?
Yeah. Melissa's, I forget her name, but Melissa is played by somebody named Melissa. John Benjamin, obviously,
is Coach
John McGuirk. John is his first name.
Makes sense.
Like, everybody going down, like, I have no problem with it. I hate coming up with names for, like, anything that I do.
Yeah.
But it's just kind of fun to, like, guys, you didn't...
You didn't even shift it. Well, it's kind of what we did with, or what we've done in NATO in the Smog in L.A., in terms of the fact that we're essentially exaggerated, fictionalized versions of ourselves, which makes sense with the show. It's about Brendan, who's 8, and got a movie camera when he was like 6 for his birthday, and deeply and desperately wants to be a filmmaker, and is a huge cinephile. And the show is about him and his two friends making movies with the video camera, and also about the peripheral adults attached to these children, namely John McGuirk, their drunk, incompetent, over the hill, overweight failure of a soccer coach. There's only John McGuirk in my heart.
Well, yeah.
The parents of both Brendan and Melissa, who's one of his two friends. His friends are Jason and Melissa, and various other students and their parents. Walter and Perry are also a high point of the show for me.
I hate Walter and Perry.
Two small children who start out being kind of sweet and terrified of the world, and
turn into
possibly
monsters.
In love with each other, and become slowly more and more vicious and menacing as the show continues, until they are like full-on horror movie, like secret mob bosses, like manipulating people, threatening people's lives.
Those bitches tried to cheat me.
Yeah, like
you work for us now.
Yeah.
Well,
hey, don't make us go crazy on you!
I do love, specifically, like, with Walter and Perry, I mean, it's seen throughout the show. Like, basically, Brendan Small does a third of the voices, John McGuirk does John Benjamin.
Maybe
they are inseparable.
John McGuirk.
But they play Walter and Perry in addition to, like, the myriad of other voices that they do. And the thing that I love is, it was probably born in part because of, like, the budget and, like, who was working on the project. But having that amount of, like, diversity and, like, range within the cast. And, like, sometimes it's forced. Sometimes you can be like, that voice wasn't right for that part.
No.
But, like...
the vast majority of the time, it's perfect.
Yeah, when you're a fan of the show, it also, like, brings you in and it makes you feel all warm and fuzzy inside.
Yeah, because you recognize that... well, and I mean, that's something that everybody in the cast, as we were talking about, the first season there wasn't a script. Like, they had scene outlines, and they ad-libbed, and were like, that take's good. Like, the same way that the characters on the show are doing. Which is, like, a point that they make, like, 2/3 of the way through the first season. And a bunch of those guys from that ensemble then later on went on and did, like, Metalocalypse. Like, Brendan Small did Metalocalypse and does, like, a fifth of the voices on Metalocalypse. And, has an incredible range within that.
The second woman who voiced Paula is one of the writers on Metalocalypse.
Makes sense. Like, a lot of the Adult Swim guys, like, work with the same teams a lot of the time.
Well, yeah, and even beyond that, I mean, Lauren Bouchard and John Benjamin have, like, a long working history, even till today. I mean, Bob's Burgers.
Yeah, which is the most recent Lauren Bouchard show, though it's still not as good as Lucy, the Daughter of the Devil, which also had H. John Benjamin as the titular devil.
Well, yeah, and I think they started out together on Dr. Katz.
Oh, that totally makes sense. I've actually never watched Dr. Katz. I remember when it was a comic strip, like, in the newspaper, and I was a very small child, and I didn't really understand the jokes.
Yeah, I haven't watched Dr. Katz. The main reason that I know about Dr. Katz is because of home movies and my fandom for home movies.
Yeah.
And the amount of carryover. I mean, that was part of the backlash for the use of squiggle vision in the first season. And this was like, well, this is a thing that you developed to stylized, and it was already partnered with Dr. Katz, and you're continuing it over for this. I also, like, I'm not a big fan of squiggle vision in general, and, like, it's fine for, like, one episode, but, like, watching 13 of those in a row with the squiggle vision animation, I was just like, oh my god.
That actually didn't bother me too much, and I didn't realize it was actually a specific, like, stylistic choice. I figured that it was just them not having budget for, like, a real animation crew.
A little bit of
which, like, if you don't have budget for a full animation crew, you wind up having some shift in the images, and so you kind of have to let it be slightly looser. And I figured that was what did it, but that actually, it probably is a combination of both, because that was what they've done before with, like, Dr. Katz. Which, the unique, wonderful thing for me about home movies is the taking apart of, like, various different aspects of artistic creation and mocking them while at the same time, like, having a deep respect for them. So, like, all of the wonderful humor of Dwayne, who is, Dwayne is older, he's like 14 or 15, and does all the music for the movies that the kids make, and has a band called Scab, and they play mostly hard rock punkish things.
They play what's inside Brendan Small's heart.
Yes, which it's
in more ways than one,
Small.
since they're doing the music. But yes, it is Brendan Small.
What is inside of Brendan Small? The Battle of the Bands episode is another one that for me was truly, truly fantastic. Even though I really hate the plot lines that revolve around Brendan and the choreographer. What's her name? Vanessa or... Like,
I can't remember.
That whole crush was, like, I get it, and it was understandable, and it was a fun little, like, you're tying in that element of being a kid and having that, like, I don't actually know this person, I have no connection to them whatsoever, but, oh my god, I'm, like, passionately in love with them from afar thing.
Right. 100% infatuation as a kid would deal with it.
Yeah. And they did that, like, so straight and so well that I just don't enjoy it. So it's one of those just like, alright, I don't like her character, and I don't, man, I'm gonna have to spend the next, like, 6 minutes with this, like, horribly awkward, because they have that awkward humor of things just like, in reality, when conversation breaks down, they perfectly highlight the way that works, and the way that they write it. And so all of that plotline I dislike. But the Battle of the Bands was one of my favorite things in the whole show. Not the least of which being that the second band that goes up is playing, like, weird electropop with giant screens repeatedly flashing "You Will Obey Us" as the entire crowd boos them. They're all wearing, like, green lederhosen. It makes no fucking sense. And I actually fell out of my chair laughing when I was doing the rewatch, because I had not remembered that was a thing.
Yeah, I love all the Dwayne-centric episodes. For me, Guitarmageddon's a little bit higher up there for me, personally.
I loved Guitarmageddon, too. I was just sad that, Monet, Charlie Monet, or whatever the hell
Jimmy
Monet wins, which makes sense. It's the joke about the hard rockers. Because literally Jimmy Monet is just doing 80s hard rock.
Well, yeah, and... Yeah, very much the whole, like, hey, I've got style and flair, and that's all on display, and that's kind of what this is about. And, like, even though Dwayne's the much better musician,
he's really good because he's been playing a lot longer than I have. You know, he's like 18, and, you know, he did some sloppy pick work, but, you know, he's kind of a dick. Well, but, you know, to the untrained ear, can't tell that at all. Yeah. Dwayne's voice. Like, that's why the Franz Kafka episode, going back to it, like, just the concept of doing a rock opera of Metamorphosis is one of the best things ever conceived. And the point where Brendan is just like, you know, let me do a pass on the script, you know, just hand over the reins. Is that a yes? Is that a no? And Dwayne just starts playing the riff at him and just stone faces him for like 45 straight seconds playing the riff in his face. And it just...
You don't have a choice, we're doing... I also... The other thing with that particular episode is I love the flip side of it. I love Louie.
Oh, yeah, no, just simply like... Why did you think of this?
See, the thing that I'm going for is that two famous men from France are both named Louis.
The absurdity of that. The part where he goes totally, and it's just him in the basement playing all the parts because he's fired everyone. And that's also just, I love that everyone else is like, no, let's do the fucking Franz Kafka thing. And like, just him, like, pouring the milk all over himself. Like, I'm Louis Pasteur! Which is something else that I both love and is, like, weirdly irksome in certain moments, but is such a part of the oeuvre of the show, is that, like, Brendan is just an unpleasant little kid in most ways. Mm-hmm. Like, there's definitely, I think that he's sympathetic in a lot of ways, but he's also, like, horribly egotistical, can't deal with any kind of criticism, utterly refuses to...
Well, some of the criticism that he gets is bullshit.
Yes!
Especially, like, at the end, but again, we'll get to that when we get to that.
Yeah, the focus group is crap. But, like, there's so much of it when people are... Where he like, can't relinquish control of anything. And it is so much of a collaboration between the three of them and his total...
But I have the camera, so
it's me. Like, it's all about me. And, like, he's kind of like a selfish, incompetent schwanz. But he's also 8. So that's kind of par for the course. But it was one of those interesting things on the rewatch going like, man, like, both he and Paula are, like, not competent. Like, the two most central characters of this are blatantly incompetent at what they do. Like, Paula's not a good writer either.
Or a good teacher.
Like, no, she's a terrible teacher, and it's, like, what she does for a living. And, like, having that as the core of the show was so interesting, because everybody else is eminently capable in their own way, except for McGuirk.
Thank you.
Like, no. Don't get me wrong. I'm never going to call McGuirk capable, because McGuirk is incapable of anything. And I did have to admit to a certain laugh, cry reaction to the one episode where the car just won't move more than 6 feet before breaking down. Because I've been experiencing that lately, and I'm just like, damn it, I'm not Coach McGuirk. Damn it, I'm not Coach McGuirk. And then I had to accept that I'm simply Coach McGuirk. And that he's all that is in my heart.
I definitely, I have a bit of that feeling too, not directly with the car, but there's a lot of the episode Definite Possible Murder when he decides to become a bartender.
Oh, for no reason.
And he's just like, that's horrible. All right, suck it down. All right, we're going to go off the book. Dry mustard, vodka, milk, sprig of parsley. Oh, pimento that's on the floor.
Oh, yeah, that's all.
All right, suck it down.
Oh, my God. All right, sex on the beach. Oh, that's terrible. Oh, I did that wrong. Oh, all right, this is my creation. It's called The Dirty Frenchman. It's wine
and
olive juice. Like, and I mean, I don't obviously think I am McGuirk, because, but
I think there's a little bit of McGuirk in us. We are not embodiments of McGuirk.
No, because, I mean, McGuirk is also, like, awful in a lot of ways. I would never be awful. But in the same way that Carl is awful in a lot of ways that I would never be awful. Like, there's a lot of McGuirk and a lot of Carl that speaks to me, specifically. And, like, McGuirk and Dwayne very much are the heart of that show for me. Which is funny, because I don't think they ever interact, like, once.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Which is funny to me, that in the entire show that never happens, but that also makes sense. Especially after, the best years of my life, best job I ever had was being a roadie. I mean, technically we never went on the road, it was a local band. So, I guess I was just a helper. Yeah. Setting up amps. Which...
Craft services.
Yeah. Oh, the camp episode.
That may be my favorite episode.
Nice. With the Hug It Out
Cloud Chaser.
Yeah, I really hate that
We
name.
think of you as a friend. May we touch you?
No, don't touch me.
You're in denial.
Well, and I love that, I was waiting for it. I was waiting for McGuirk to finally break down, cry, and be like, I need to return and be hugged by my fellow men. And just nothing like I was not expecting, I think, any of that episode. But I did love that the screenwriting class was being taught by a guy who worked in craft services for 30 years.
Joel Schumacher on the set of Batman and Robin.
Yeah, you seen Batman and Robin?
Every day.
There. All right, I was there with that director, and I'd crack jokes and he'd laugh because we were working on the same movie together. Yes, you shouldn't. Never be proud of Batman and Robin. There is nothing to be proud of.
Especially craft services on... Well, actually, that might be the best thing to be proud of on Batman and Robin.
Man, I made the best motherfucking omelets for whoever that guy who played Robin was. Joaquin Phoenix?
Definitively not Joaquin Phoenix. Wasn't it Chris O'Donnell?
I don't know. I actually don't know Chris O'Donnell.
I don't know either. We did Batman previously, and I think I remember that, but I could be completely off.
His name. It's possible. Chris O'Donnell, if you ever end up listening to this, and you are, in fact, that guy who played Robin in the latter two of those movies, I hope your career has done better, and nothing but respect. Nothing but respect. You gotta earn paychecks. But the one thing that bothered me about the later seasons in terms of it, and part of why what I said earlier about the first one being so unique, is that there was a dryness in the humor in season one that is definitely indicative of a lot of later stuff that they did on Adult Swim. But seasons 2 and 3 and 4 really conform more to that kind of mold of like the early Adult Swim shows, where it is a lot more episodic. Things don't really build into each other like a lot. It's the humor became the more like random off the cuff. Like there's the episode where they all are mega fat at the end and they just simply don't deal with it. And that cartoon style is great and works in tons of stuff. I love it in Family Guy. I love it in Robot Chicken. I love it in... I mean, Robot Chicken is designed around that idea. Right. The short joke. But for me, coming out of that dryness and that rawness of the first season, it was kind of... It was kind of a letdown having that, like, okay, this is much more typical of, this is an Adult Swim show. Mm. And it's not that it's not funny, and it's not that they didn't do great stuff, especially with Dwayne's musical numbers. Starboy. Like, the straight David Bowie trip outer space. That's the fucking, just, like, straight David Bowie tribute for every time it comes up for multiple episodes. Which is just...
Let's go find out how hot dogs are made.
Hot dogs are made of horses, Brendan. Yes, Jason, that's horse meat. That's... and they also very much drop the Jason is disgusting in the later seasons. Which is cool in some ways because it allows the other elements of his character, like the fact that he's the only one who's read Kafka, and like he's going all the way through, and it's like, yeah, you know, we should run away to Europe. I mean... Like, really? Like, is that a good idea? Oh, yeah, tons of people do it. Yeah, like in Faulkner or Hemingway.
Yeah.
Like, he's incredibly well-read. He's actually seen all of these crazy classic movies and knows actually way more about film than Brendan does. And all of that gets to breathe more. Though I am also sorry that they just totally dropped his, like, long-term crush on Melissa plotline as well. Like, they literally did one episode of the, like, I've always known that I'm going to marry her, and I'm secretly in love with Melissa, and then it was gone. Again, that, like, weird episodic, like, yeah, we came up with a sitcom situation for these characters. Reset to zero.
I definitely feel that. The main thing with the later seasons for me is that the plots are more, like, together within the episode. And, like, I would have loved more carryover between episodes, how, like, hey, these are things that actually mattered.
Yeah.
There are, like, definitely through lines, like his dad. Like, I love the whole through line with his dad. Like, that's dropped. The season finale of one.
Yeah.
And then it's not dealt with for a few episodes, then, holy shit, his dad shows up and he's Louis C.K.
Yeah, I didn't place that. That makes a lot of sense and is beautiful and is perfect. But yeah, I loved the plotline with his dad and the slow kind of awkward exposure of all of that and the awfulness that is, what's her name? Lisa?
Linda,
the stepmom. Evolving into her being a much more nuanced character. Like, as the relationship grows and as the situation gets better. The therapy episode is so miserable but so well done.
I love that episode.
And because it helps me cut time preparing for these things, I've been doing this more and more. But I watched the whole series at 1.5 speed. And so there were a lot of elements of it that were really funny because it was just slightly faster. And it was these people just, like, yammering. But jumping totally back, Walter and Perry at 1.5 speed is literally this wall of chattering, gibbering insanity. It is totally fucking indescribable. It's like, because Walter and Perry just constantly giggle and will someday get married.
Right.
And, like... oh man.
If we're constantly referring to them together, it's because they are one entity. They may be two people, but they are one entity.
Yeah, if anyone has ever read the very old school classic sci-fi story, and Baby Makes Three, they are a Gestalt, you probably haven't. I hope that story has been read by a lot of people, but it's weird and obscure. I'll shut up. But yeah, they are one being, and might be one of the... I mean, they're definitely a gay couple. I mean, they're pre-sexual, but...
Yeah, they are. I mean,
like,
there's like one instance where they talk about women / possibly being attracted to women.
Oh, with Melissa.
I think so.
Well, there's the whole one that's about her... Like, where her dad is trying to make her more feminine.
No!
And she's
No,
like,
no,
I
no,
don't
no,
have
no,
any
no, no,
interest
no.
in this.
It's with Fenton's mom. They want to have a sleepover at Fenton's house to see Fenton's mom naked.
Yes.
That was what I was talking about.
No, that's true. But I mean, I'm also bisexual. But I mean, they love each other.
They do.
They love each other, Etienne. Oh, I'm not afraid of heights. Oh, you're not? Oh, that makes me scared. Now I'm scared too. Oh, hold me, Perry.
Longer sea, I always get seasick.
Oh my God. Oh, Walter and Perry. Endless oodles of fun. Fenton was another thing that I just hate.
I hate Fenton.
His character. And every time he comes on screen, there's just a large part of me that goes, why? You know? There was another issue that I had with another one of those, like, episodic things. The episode where Fenton, like, takes over the production.
Right.
And for whatever reason, Jason and Melissa, who, despite sometimes having wacky ideas, are generally competent and understand when something is bullshit. Like, 100% hook, line, and sinker by Fenton's terrible, okay, rewrite everything so I'm badass and I'm the only person on
Tear
screen.
the set down.
Yeah, rebuild it behind me. So that I don't have to move during filming because I am the septopus and I'm on top of the submarine and I'm always eating pie. Like,
With 7 testicles.
Yeah, which... Like, that whole episode drove me nuts because... Why can't they see the Emperor has no clothes? They're usually really good at that, particularly Melissa. Like, Melissa usually sees directly through bullshit.
There have been times before, I mean, with her Octavio.
That's specific manipulation, though.
Yeah, I
they
know.
even have an episode where they go into the beauties and joys of manipulation. It's not that episode, but... Yeah,
it's history. It's the one with the fearsome trio that's going to take down the world of Shakespeare, Picasso, and Annie Oakley.
No, it's George Washington.
You're right.
Picasso and Annie Oakley.
And they hold Shakespeare, Oliver Twist, and the Mermaid Queen.
Yeah, played by Junior Adelberg, who... The Adelbergs are such a... That was something that I loved in the later seasons, that they gave the Adelbergs life and, like, fleshing out. Because it's such a weird, just, like, why is every background job in town the same guy with the weird voice?
Always talking to McGuirk, too.
Yeah. Well, and also just Junior... I love that Junior kind of became the third for the 4th season with Walter and Perry. Like, there's a ton of different times where, like, the three of them are, like, moving as a unit throughout the show. And he actually is much closer with them even than with Eugene. I think in part because he realizes that Eugene is...
a douchebag.
Well, he's kind of... I don't remember the line, but it's literally the joke of the, like... small Eastern European nation being like, Russia's getting very creepily aggressive on my border in the Skunkwood
Derby.
Derby.
It's not the name of the episode. I don't remember the fucking...
The names are really fucking hard to remember.
It might have just been The Wizard's Baker, because I know that that's the movie that's going on during that episode.
Yeah.
That Brendan's trying desperately to distance himself from, and everybody's so down for.
Such great music in that episode. Every episode. Dwayne! Oh, Dwayne! So good.
Yeah, it's interesting, too, watching that. Like, you can totally, like, they're very different shows, but you can totally see how Metalocalypse came to be. He's like,
yes.
Yeah, I love, hanging out with people, like, doing a bunch of different voices and just fucking, like, jamming out, playing music, and the music's related to the plot.
Yes. Well, and you can also see even roots of, like, all the music in Metalocalypse, and especially looking at the mockeries that he made of 80s hard rock in Metalocalypse, you can, like, directly trace that to, like, okay, we've got the whole joke here about Monet, Jimmy Monet, and all of the weird stuff with the rock operas. The Tommy joke in, like, fourth to last episode, or whatever that episode is. It's just a sideline in the episode. They have Jason as, I think it's Timmy, who is left all alone, and so all of his senses are considerably dulled.
Yeah.
And becomes world famous for no apparent reason. It was just literally them being like, let's do a musical parody of Tommy. Yep. Yeah, let's do the Acid Queen scene. Okay. Yes. Which, the addiction stuff as well. Like, really funny, but also really dark and well done with Jason's candy addiction and the, like...
Yeah. That Coffins and Cradles, it was the first episode I ever saw.
Oh, for sure.
I saw it in like a little like theater room. I don't know if you remember Nathan Stroud's place by Union.
I never actually went to it.
It was like a 10-15 person theater that you could like reserve for a night. And like we went there one night to like hang out and chill, and like after we were done doing whatever the fuck we were doing, probably gaming or watching a movie or something, we just ended up watching TV. And, like, we were watching Adult Swim, and it was at that, like, 4 or 5 a.m. when they're doing the, like, old stuff and, like, reruns of previous.
Yeah.
It was the first time I'd ever seen it, and I was like, oh my god, what the fuck? This show is fucked up, weird, and hilarious. And, like, I did have, admittedly, that little bit of, like, I'm tired as shit, so everything's funny.
Yes.
But, like, just Coffins and Cradles, some of the, like, weird lines in it, that, like, weirdness with Linda and Brendan... And the whole, like, pregnancy thing and me not knowing what the fuck was going on in terms of overarching stuff with the dad.
Well, and that episode is so tied in with the overarching bits. Like, very few overarching plot
so
lines.
So all the off-the-cuff jokes in that hit me, like, full power because I didn't know any of the other stuff that was going on with the dad. I was just like, what the fuck is wrong with the show? I love it.
Yeah, no, which is perfect. It makes God, the whole scene... of Brendan arguing with the doctor during the birth. To the point where finally Linda just loses it and is like, get the fuck out.
Well, I also love the meta-ness of that, of the, like, the rough script, who's like, this is just childish gibberish. It's just the first draft. No, I love childish gibberish. And so does America.
Yeah. America loves childish gibberish. This is perfect. I'd love to be in this film. Also, there's one repeated episode trope which was interesting to me. The Brendan is hired to do a video, and instead of doing the video, mocks whatever the video was supposed to be about. There's like 3 or 4 of those, and it was an interesting.
Yeah, the first one, the season 1, it was supposed to be funny, where he ends up dressing up Melissa's granddad.
Yeah.
Was fucking hilarious. Like, I appreciated one of the later ones, too, because, I mean, it points everything back at Fenton. No, you're being a fucking asshole.
Oh, the one that's, literally like, you suck, Fenton. Stop.
Even after he's like, I can't redo this because, like, it's just making fun of Fenton. And then he just sees Fenton being an asshole to everybody. So he films it and, like, just does, like, Fenton is compassionate.
Yeah. It's mine! Well, I just wanted to look at it, but it's mine!
Mom, you're ruining my party!
I wanted the blue chips with the blue corn. Not the white corn, the blue corn. The one where he spends the weekend there, and they're just eating the unflavored rice for dinner. Oh, my God.
But what flavoring does this have? Rice. It's rice flavored.
Yeah, that's what I thought. These plastic sheets? Yeah, they're great, huh?
The other interesting thing, too, and a little bit in that episode, but the amount of real issues that everybody has, we touched on this a little bit earlier with Brendan.
Yeah.
But, like, there are so many, like, divorce/split-up families in that show, and the effect that it has on the kids and how that plays out throughout the show is just insane.
Well, and really realistic emotional life of children stuff.
Right.
Which was also the thing that I liked the least about Season 4, is that there were a bunch of them that seemed to go straight for the yeah, we had a comedy idea, and we're throwing kind of out the window the fact that these are actually children. But for most of the show, it's so dead on with that, and the ennui that they have as a bunch of suburban kids. Just even playing with that.
Thanks, Scrabbles.
Damn it, Honky
Magoo.
Magoo. Which just literally from all the filming and recording that we've done, here with Scrabbles, who's the dog barking in the background, by the way. There's specifically an episode of the show that deals with this, where they have a bird and a dog, and they're trying to film while they have the bird and the dog around. The bird is played
by Gilbert Godfrey. For no reason.
God, that's fantastic.
They're just like, you were the parrot in Aladdin. You want to be a parrot in this?
That is fantastic. And it seems like it's probably just in line with Gilbert Gottfried's sense of humor.
But yeah, there's been a lot of the overarching, hey, yes, I'm not 8. I'm not 7. But, that's kind of what we do now. Is, hanging out with friends, making films, working on projects, and it's great, and it's interesting from that aspect. And yes, obviously stuff with animals. You talked earlier about the whole Septipus and Finton Muley, and it's no, my character would have this. This is part of who he is.
Literally no reason for your character to be playing a video game.
And specifically stuff with Mike and him needing to be drinking early on is no, my character, Mike, it's a different character. You don't need to be drinking in the scene. Put the fucking beer down.
Which was fun. But, but Mike actually is open to collaboration.
Oh, yeah.
Fenton is not. And I like Mike, and I don't like Fenton.
I agree
Mike has good ideas,
but
Fenton
it was
does
just
not.
One of those things that, obviously I wasn't thinking about it at the time, but, going back and rewatching home movies, I got, oh my god, I've been there.
Yeah.
Not to the same extent, but, I've had that.
So what are you trying to say, Etienne? You trying to say that what we do together, it's just, you just come home and you feel like you're supposed to do it? You've been making movies so long, you just need to keep making movies.
And yes, and nobody should watch them, and we should move to Europe because they have more avant-garde sensibilities.
Of course, yeah. Before McGuirk loses $6,000 into the river. But there's definitely those wonderful moments that do catch. Even something as weird as the episode where McGuirk is are you on drugs, Brendan? And Brendan's no, I'm actually tired.
Yeah.
I'm having a hard time sleeping because of crap at my house, because crazy lady who's into McGuirk is there. Who I love, she just disappears after McGuirk's heart attack. Just does not come back at all, other than the one shot where Walter and Perry are trying to get signatures for the tree, and they're all cloistered in the house together with the crazy haircut because she started the cult. But that happened to me in high school, literally that, and the guy who did it to me was kind of a Coach McGuirk, and was this dude who had gone to Loxa way back in the day and was now there and was teaching stage tech and was not a very good tech guy from everyone who I've talked to who's worked with him, and was kind of a little bit of an overbearing asshole, but he was alright, he was fine. And my sophomore year, I didn't have his class anymore, and this was actually the year that I started watching Adult Swim every single night, the whole thing with the repeat, because my parents weren't living in the house. And there was a day where he stopped me in the hallway and just looked me up and down and was like, "You don't look good, man. What's up? What's happening?" And I was just like, "Oh, I'm really tired, dude. I've been staying up all night, every night, watching Adult Swim, because my parents are, they're living in the guest house right now because of remodeling, so I basically have the whole house to myself from 9 to 5, and I have insomnia problems anyway, so I'm just not sleeping." And he's like, "Oh, yeah. Yeah, I bet. I remember the first time I had a house to myself. Wasn't about responsibility at all." And there was a long, awkward pause. And I looked at him and was kind of "Oh, okay. You've changed, man. You've changed." And he says that, and I say, "Okay." And he turns around and he walks away. I was kind of like, all right, what the shit? And he spent the next, like, year and a half trying to get, like, he taught the, drug intervention class because I got kicked out of Loxie back in the day because I was on heroin, even though he didn't get kicked out because his parents were friends with the school board. Whatever. Point is, like, he just started, like, closing in on the stoners in the intervention class and was like, what's Patrick on? I know he's on hard drugs. And it was like, I'd hear about this from all these people, and this is when I was dead sober. This is when I had quit drinking, even. And I was just like you. When you liked me, I was drinking every night. And now that I'm sober, you're convinced I'm on drugs. So that was one for me where I was like, my God, it's my high school just happening to Brendan in grade school because McGuirk.
Well, I love the full, like, Coach McGuirk where he decides to have the intervention. He's like, all right, guys, Brendan's on drugs. All right, handle it. He just turns the intervention over to the bunch of everybody on the soccer team, which is horrible.
And who all know that he's not on drugs and are like, we don't care. But I'm not on drugs. I know, Brendan. I was just trying to get the team hyped up. Which, everything with Coach McGuirk. And I love, like, the fact that he went to college. He went to school, because he didn't go to college. He went to a few classes and then was running around with the Wild Bunch or whatever the hippies that he did drugs with and musical theater with were called. But, like, went to school for architecture and was, like, a Highland dancer and, you know, just threw it all away and now lives in his shitty, miserable, wretched apartment. Getting
that
very,
he pays
very,
too much
very
for
drunk.
because he told the landlady to go fuck herself, basically.
Well, and that's something that was weird for me at the end of the show, just as a sideline. Weird for me at the end of the show was that by the end of the show, the only character who had money problems was McGuirk. And, like, Paula stops having any problem paying for anything and is able to just, like, do stuff, which is, like, a major theme of the early show, is that Paula doesn't have money. Even when she's teaching full-time at the beginning. And by the end of the show, the only one who has the joke of McGuirk doesn't have money for these things is McGuirk. And I was also intrigued by the weird switch from, in Season 1, Melissa's family is rich, and Jason's family is poor. And in Season 2, Melissa's family is middle class, and Jason's family is rich. And they continue that for the rest of the show, and that's cool. They set up, like, wonderful background stuff for that. But it was a weird switch where I was like, okay, you didn't remember that thing that you said before.
There are definite inconsistencies, especially with Season 1 and how it relates to the rest of the show, especially that first part that was on UPN before it got brought over. Yeah,
which is different. Like, totally different in what they were shooting for. But yeah, no, like, jumping back to I'm sorry, that was just, like, a weird sideline that I'd noticed. Like, the slow expansion of McGuirk into actually being sympathetic by the end of the show. Which, I mean, he's still an asshole. But, like, in the run-up to the episode with Fenton, where it's Fenton's birthday and he's just awful, and McGuirk finally loses it and is like, shut the fuck up, Fenton. And then, like, fucks Fenton's mom. Implied, of course.
Right.
Like, that is the first time McGuirk does anything good for anyone.
That's tough to say.
When before that does he do a single good thing for anybody other than McGuirk? And it's generally not even good for McGuirk.
Yes, he is largely selfish and a dick. There are times when he tries to do good things and just fucks up.
Well, he tries to do it.
I mean, when he's trying to be a big brother.
He tries to do it very briefly, but I think that was after the episode with Fenton's birthday.
Quite possibly.
Because that was something that I noticed where they started having, like, this series of things where it was him actually, like, trying to make the effort and then, like, being kicked back to the floor because that's where McGuirk lives. And
on Lonely Avenue.
Yes, literally Lonely Avenue. Like, lonely and bro. You only see the beginning of the other word.
Probably bro.
But, yeah, I always figured it was Lonely Avenue and Bro Court.
No, broke.
Oh, broke, lonely, and broke. That actually makes a lot of sense. But having that, like, actually slowly opening up McGuirk, and it starts with you feeling sorry for him. And then, you know, you almost want McGuirk to win by the end.
The main episode where I liked him was the whole the Amy Lee with that's the one with the backstory about him being a Scottish Highland dancer and being like you did something with your life once upon a time.
Yeah, you were a world-class Scottish Highland dancer. You threw it all away, McGuirk. Threw it away and pursued architecture, but you just couldn't finish it. And then you went into that downward spiral, doing a lot of drugs and musical theater, until you wind up in drag, coaching football. Sorry, I mean, it is football, just not in America. Time out, everybody. There's no timeouts in soccer. Wait, really? Yeah, you gotta wait for the play to end. That's.
You do know that we're playing soccer, right?
I know soccer. Who said I don't know soccer? No one. No one said that.
I do love the fact that he admits, like, I've said it, I don't know how to play soccer. Oh, yeah, I've never played soccer.
But only in the episode where he thinks he's going to be a bartender.
No, that's in the prescription for the better life at the end of Coffins and Cradles after the heart attack.
You're absolutely right. Because, yeah, he's like, oh, God. Because he has the heart
attack. I've got to make life changes. Fuck. My life is...
Yeah, his life is terrible. And that was something that I thought was really well done. Was also, yeah, McGuirk, like, honestly trying to be better and better and better. Like, even when they let him into Pizza Club. Like, he's cool in Pizza Club.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
He just wanted to be a part of Pizza Club. Yeah. And he was really uncool when he wasn't a part of Pizza Club.
It's been so long since I've been a part of something. But that's part of what I loved about the show as a whole, is that it had a wonderful balance between the really ridiculous, like, just dumb humor with highlights of, like, highly literate,
right,
like, understanding around the stupidity, which is, I think, a brilliant and nearly unique craft, with, like, actual kind of emotional ennui and ambiguity. Like, the characters were all so rich and had dimension, like, in many different ways. And so because of that last episode was so precisely on pitch.
It makes me sad every time. I get the feels. Like that, especially that, last shot.
Oh, the final where he's recording out the window and the camera's gone. And gets run over by the car.
Yep.
And he tries to say something and no one listens and nobody cares. And he just falls silent in the back seat. Like that. Whew. That was great.
Even now, dude, I'm getting chills because I've seen it and I love the show and just like, oh.
Yeah. Well, and that wonderful meta somberness of the last episode. Because I definitely, as I'd said at the very, very beginning of this, I feel like that last season was tired. And it was them having moved on and, like, started working on other projects, and they wanted to do other things. I believe there was a gap between Season 3 and Season 4, and they were supposed to do Season 4, so they came back and did it. Speak. And so you have this kind of, like, more tired season that then ends with them reflecting on, this is one of the first things that we did that was big.
Yeah.
And reflecting on how do you finish something that's, like, kind of a defining work for your own arc.
And even the thing with Brenda is, like, I thought it was finished, you know? Like, we don't need more, like, to me, this is done with.
Yeah. But we need something to cap it. And they so beautifully did that, even with the process of, like, McGuirk does finally almost succeed at something. Like, he does build the grill.
And then he blows up the house.
Yes. Well, he blew... you don't know that's... I mean, he blows up the grill.
He definitely blows up the grill. To me, I always thought that he blew up the house.
Which is possible, which would have meant that they lost all the remaining movies. Because they're, like,
literally driving away and, like, they're covered in ashes and shit.
Yeah, like, but they were all also, like, somewhat near the grill. And the grill was all the way at the end of the backyard. They definitely blew up McGuirk's tent.
Oh, the horror. I mean, I'm sure half of his possessions were in there, but...
Oh, yeah. Is this, never been down to your office? This is where they stuck you. Yeah, it's terrible, you know. They just stuck me down here, and I don't get a lot of visitors. No, it's nice. It's nice. Is that a sleeping bag? Yeah, Brendan.
I go camping. Sometimes I'll camp right here.
Yeah. It's, okay. The first one where he takes them camping and just doesn't bring food. Wastes all of their parents' food money on beer.
I've got turkey. All right, everybody take a slice.
Just one slice? Yes, just one slice, Melissa. And that's, I think, what really sets the show apart is that wonderful... The looking at reality and kind of the minutia of reality and a childhood's life, which life is so much more dynamic for children. Like, every moment means so much, and every action means so much, and everything you create is, like, the greatest thing ever, and you're completely, immersed in it at all times.
And then as soon as it's done, you're on to the next thing.
Yeah, which they so perfectly portray. Like, all of that realism with the, like... Brendan Small being like 30 and Lauren Bashar being like 30 and being well-read and well-educated and looking back on that and being able to look at that with like a global humor and a global understanding creates that really interesting, unique flavor of the show.
The thing that I love, I remember reading this, looking this up a number of years ago, but when Brendan Small and John Benjamin found out that they were going to be working together, the first thing that they did is they went out drinking to establish a rapport.
That makes a lot of sense.
Which I think is beautiful.
Especially for the two of them to, like, have that interweaving of it, especially considering how much of an integral part of it's John Benjamin's craft alcohol is.
Well, yeah. I mean, Black Hole Brew was a staple of the show.
Oh, yeah. Yes, a sex on the beach. Yeah, all right, here's a sex on the beach. That is a beer. Nope, it's a sex on the beach.
You don't like it? All right, send it back. I'll make you another one.
I watched you open a can of beer, pour it into the glass, and hand it to me. Yeah, well, you're wrong. It's a sex on the beach.
Here was the bartender here, buddy. Me or you?
You're obviously wrong. All I want. I figured it was.
Sir, I implore you, make me a sex on the beach.
No, sex on the beach. It's a fun drink. I've had one ever.
Well, it's one of those things. I mean, not completely John McGuirk levels, but like, definitely I don't choose to go out to bars that often, and when I do, I'm not like getting those like, complicated drinks. I'm like, all right, whiskey, sour, or beer. That's about where I'm at.
Yeah, I get whiskey, neats, and beers when I'm at bars, because then I know exactly what I'm drinking and how much of it I'm drinking. I'm very basic in that way.
Which is all of them.
Yes. I mean, it is. And, I will every once in a while get, like, some weird, wacky, interesting-looking cocktail because it looks like an interesting blend of flavors. But then afterwards, I always have this horrible buyer's remorse where I'm like, hey, you spent $12 on what amounts to gin and 2 kinds of citrus juice. Son of a bitch.
Yeah. I could have had 2 drinks with that and been almost as disappointed.
In myself. Which... I agree with, but there was a certain joy, especially to watching McGuirk do. I've done that, where it's the end of it, and you're at the end of your booze, and you're like, oh, I have left mustard and milk. I didn't actually do the mustard milk. I know, which was what was so beautiful about that. There was another one of those, like, I've been there, McGuirk. I've mixed my rot gut vodka with various kinds of salad dressing to find the one that was the least vile. It's Italian, by the way. Italian. You don't want that balsamic vinaigrette shit. You want that straight, like, nasty, like, Paul Newman's brand Italian. Giving this tip to all of you alcoholics out there. Yeah, Newman's Own. Whatever you call it. Paul Newman vodkas. I should just call those Paul Newmans. Start a bar, sell nothing but Paul Newmans.
I mean, everything there is terrible, mostly because they only serve one drink, but it costs you $1.50.
Yeah,
so.
Actually, you would totally make a ton of money if you did that, because it has to be made with Prestige vodka, which is the very cheapest Ralph's brand vodka.
Which the name is just totally a lie.
Oh, yeah, that's my favorite thing about it. Actually, about a week ago, I came home, and there was a handle of Prestige vodka sitting on the counter in my kitchen, and I spent like a good 3 minutes staring at it while it stared back at me, because we have a long, unfriendly association with each other. And Melinda came out and, like, moved it, and I asked her, is that is that yours? And she was like, oh, yeah, I need some vodka. And I was like, oh, God, the Prestige. And she said, yeah, what about it? And I explained the sadness that is Prestige vodka. And that is inside John McGuirk.
Yeah. I think the last thing that I'd loosely like to talk about is the symmetry. Obviously, they set it up between what they were filming and the plot that's going on in the episode.
Yes.
And especially in the later episodes, how snappy they got the cuts. Like, okay, this is the point that the film is making, or this is the point that the episode is making, and just cutting back and forth between them.
Yeah.
I thought was absolutely perfect and well done.
Oh, yes. Absolutely wonderful. And the really simplistic filmmaking elements that they actually put into the show are so well edited that it's perfect. And there's all of these great little, like, cinematography cues of, like, the thing in the driver's ed course where McGuirk, like, the cuts for McGuirk's description of the crashing into the gas station and the explosion was, like, straight 80s action movie. Was, like, perfectly taken from that. And they start doing so much of that in the kids' films towards the end of the show that you do have that, like, the two different points being made that are interwoven with each other. And that's really, yeah, that's the beauty of the show, is interwoven opposites, I think. And that's, that's a solid ending line. Not like it's time to pay the price.
Not like we ruined it.
Yeah,
Don't worry about it, Brendan. It's Chinatown.
What? But it's not Chinatown. No, like the movie, the movie Chinatown. I don't know, Etienne. I think, though, that it might be time to pay the price.
Yeah, I agree. It's time to pay the price.
Good night, TBD people everywhere.